Hi, this is Feynman Education. Today we're going to go through the iGCSE Economics Paper 1. This is for the May-June 2022 session. So let's just go through the first question. Okay. So a government uses different supply-side policy measures to improve economic performance. Which policy measure would not satisfy one of the government's macroeconomic aims? Okay. So the key here is the government's aim. So for all of these four options, we have changing the tax system, which leads to more tax evasion. B is to improve the balance of payments. C is to increase economic growth. And then D is to lower unemployment. So out of these four goals, only the three in B, C, D are reasonable for government. Government would not encourage anyone to do tax evasion. So the answer is A, which the goal does not align with the government's aim. You guys can just read the last part or focus on the last part to pick out the correct answer the fastest. And for the second question, what would cause an increase in demand for a factor of production? So the question asks for an increase in demand, which is the shift of the demand curve rather than a movement along the curve. So this is different because we will be looking for the 6 factors that shift the demand curve. So anything that mention an increase in price or quantity of the factor of production would not be correct. So right away we can already see that D, saying that increase in the price of the factor of production, that would imply a movement along the curve. And particularly it would be the movement to the left of the curve. So then D would not be the answer. So for A, decrease in the efficiency of the factor of production, this would mean that the factor of production is now less relevant to produce whatever the product, that the good or the service. So this would actually lead to a decrease in demand because people would prefer the alternative or the substitute of the factor of production. So the answer is not A. And then B, decrease in the price of an alternative factor of production. So if we have the alternative factor here, we can understand it as a substitute. So if there's a decrease in the price of a substitute, the demand for the factor production would actually decrease because people would prefer the cheaper substitute. This would lead to a decrease in demand. Okay, so for C, increase in demand for the good or service produced. So this is the good or service that is at the later stage of this factor production. So if there's higher demand, then people, suppliers would want to produce those more. So this would lead to an increase in demand of the factor of production. So the answer would be C. Question 3, which components in addition to gross domestic product per head are included in the Human Development Index? So the Human Development Index is an indicator developed by the UN, which composed of 3 main components. So it composed of health, which is measured by life expectancy, and it's measured through education, which is measured through years of schooling. And the last one is measured through income, which is through the GDP. So the question mentioned GDP, so they're looking for the other 2 factors, which is health and education. The only answer in here that mentioned the health and education factor is C, so the answer for 3 would be C. Question 4, the US government introduces tariffs on steel imported from China. This increases the price of imported Chinese steel, whose income would be likely to increase as a direct result. So tariff mean that it's increase the tax proportion on steel imported. So the tax income of the US government would increase because they tax extra on the steel imported, but that wouldn't affect the price of the Chinese steel from the producer's perspective. So the demand, if the price of imported Chinese steel increase, then it will be likely to decrease or stay the same depends on the price elasticity of demand of these goods, but we don't have that information. So, but we know that the income of the producers would not increase as a result. So we would choose the option where the income of the US government increase and the income of the producers do not increase. So the answer is C. Question 5. A government retrains unemployed industrial workers to increase employment opportunities. So if unemployed workers receive more training, then this would lead to better jobs, and better jobs lead to better salary. And with salary increase, people have more money to spend. And if we have more money to spend in an economy, that would make the demand of all the goods go up, and would not likely to affect the supply. If demands go up, that means the price of all goods and services would go up, and that would likely lead to inflation. So the option that mentioned inflation in here is B. Increased wage earning capacity may lead to demand pull inflation. And then A, C, D does not talk about adverse effect. And the key thing in this question is they mention adverse effect. So we want something that would not align closely with the government's macroeconomic aims, which is B. They would like to have stable or no inflation. So question 6, the diagram shows the demand and supply for apples. To what extent is the market for apples in disequilibrium at a price of $2.50 per kilo? So the price is on the y-axis. So we can just do a parallel line to cross the demand and supply curve. So the 250 price cross the demand at around 400 tons and cross the supply at around 800 tons. So this means the supply exceeds demand by around 400 tons. And the answer in here that gave that option is D. Question 7. The diagram shows the fixed cost, variable cost, and total cost. So we need to first label all of these three curves in the diagram. So the first line, that is just a horizontal line, is the fixed cost, because the fixed cost is just a constant number, no matter how many outputs the firm produced. And then the next line would be the variable cost, because it's a straight upward line rather than just a horizontal line. And then the line that is highest on the graph would be the total cost. That would be the variable cost with the fixed cost. So they ask which distance represents the firm's variable cost. So we have the variable cost added to the fixed cost. So the variable cost would be from here to here, which is the QS distance, which is on the line, on the variable cost line, the Q. So then the PQ distance would be the fixed cost, where you added that to calculate the total cost. So QS would be the variable cost, and PQ would be the fixed cost. So then the variable cost would be QS. So this question can be confusing if someone think about fixed cost as this line from here to here, which is a distance RS, but that is not even an option in here, so we should pay attention. So if the RS distance is a fixed cost, the PR distance would be the variable cost, but it's not an option in here, so we would choose QS as the variable cost. Question 8. The table shows the world output of iron ore and the average yearly price for 4 years. So what can be concluded about the relationship between the output and the average yearly price over the 4 years? So they have these options. When the world output is highest, the price is also highest, or when it's highest, the price is lowest. So this is similar to the relationship between quantity and price on the demand and supply graph. So they just want to ask if it's a proportional relationship or if it's inversely proportional. So if we look at the highest output, and then compare if it's actually the highest price. So yes, it is the highest output and it is also the highest price. So the A option is likely to be the answer, but we could also check if the lowest output, which is 2.22, generate the lowest price. So they give us 97, but that's not the lowest price. The lowest price is 95. So the lowest output does not generate the lowest price. So the answer here is just A. Question 9. A firm has a high price elasticity of supply for its product. What does this indicate? So recall the graph of the supply curve. If a supply curve is less steep, that means it's elastic. And then we have the x-axis as quantity and the y-axis as price. So this means it has high price elasticity of supply, and if the supply curve is very steep, that means it has low price elasticity of supply. What high price elasticity of supply mean that when price changes just by a bit, the quantity changes a lot or a lot more compared to how much the price change. So this indicates that it can quickly respond to changes in price because the firm has to regulate the quantity that they produce in a short amount of time. And they did not mention anything about the firm substitutes or any product that has close substitute. They also don't mention any volumes of product in stock. If they reducing the price, the quantity would go up, but we're not sure how much the price increase we're not sure about the decrease of the price, so we cannot calculate the increase in revenue or increase in quantity. So we need actual number in order to say that A is true. So because we don't have any information, B is likely to be the correct answer. So question 10, a manufacturer of medical supplies benefits from improved road links to its main markets. So improved road links is a public good. So all of the firms would be likely to benefiting from this improve in public goods. So the firm would not increase their market share because everyone share the same benefit. And also we don't have any information about the demand, so we cannot say for sure that the average revenue will increase. So the economies of scale mean that when they produce more or when they sell a higher quantity of products, the cost to produce that goods will decrease. So then the internal economies of scale related to production related factor. And then external economies of scale mention all of the distribution related factors. So road is actually improved in their distribution path. So we would choose B as the increased external economies of scale.